the Aquarium Project up here in Auckland. And the idea of this podcast is just we're going to, obviously, myself, Cam, and Ryan, who will introduce themselves in a second, have good, different perspectives on the industry in New Zealand and in the hobby and everything. So we thought it'd be a good idea to be able to share some insights and discussions around the hobby that might hopefully add some value to people. I'll let you guys introduce yourself. I don't know who wants to go first, but that's me basically. So yeah.
Okay, I'll go next. I'm Ryan. I've been keeping fish for a long time, so I just like to talk rubbish about them. And pretty much just want to keep these guys honest and give them a bit of crap. So.
And I'm Cam from the fish room down here in Nelson. Also own an aquarium store, been keeping fish for a long time. Been in and out of different avenues of the hobby over the time that I've been here, and quite looking forward to giving this podcast a good crack and see how we go.
Sounds good. So I suppose you guys will get to know us all a bit better as we chug along. But so we thought for today we'll do a bit more of a kind of ease ourselves into it and just hit it with a nice and fun top 5. So we're going to be talking about the top 5 best beginner fish that obviously that's available in New Zealand. I'm excited to see everyone's different perspectives and different ways of thinking about the topic. So yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I don't know who wants to go first. I guess I'll go first. And
you start. Throw one out there. We'll tear it apart.
Absolutely.
Right. Sounds like a good plan. So the first one I had on my list was platies, because there's kind of 2 reasons. Number one, everyone, especially like kids and stuff who wants to start keeping fish, the number one thing is like colors. And with platies, the best thing is pretty much any color you can think of, you can get one in that color, or you get one with like different patterns and stuff. But they're still very peaceful, very easy to keep, all that kind of thing. I think it's one that pretty much everyone can do. So yeah, that would be my first one. What do you guys reckon?
Yeah, I guess I was thinking about this too, and obviously I keep African cichlids, but not many of them are suitable for beginners because most beginners start off with a really small tank, So I do have one I want to throw out there later, but so I tend to agree on platies as well. Also, the cool thing about platies is if you put them in a tank and you put enough plants in there, you can sometimes get some babies, which is pretty cool for a beginner.
Especially for kids, I find as well.
Yeah, the key distinction, of course, is getting healthy ones to start with. You see some pretty munted ones in fish shops sometimes. So
that's actually part of why I chose platies, because like the obvious like fish in that kind of space that most people would go for would be guppies, but I consciously didn't choose guppies just because they're the ones we get in New Zealand are very like it's hard to get good ones, and that means that like if you have a little small water quality problems or something like that, they just die because they're not very strong. But I find with platies they're much more forgiving in that sense, but you don't have to sacrifice the colors or the patterns or like the activity or anything like that. But I do agree there is problems. I just think that platies is better than your guppies or that sort of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I was coming into this thinking we were going to have a wee fight about some of these lists, but I'm 100% on board with the platies to start with. They're on top of my list as well. Bright, colourful, active, hardy, easy to spawn, can go in a smaller tank, relatively cheap. Like there's a lot of positives that go for them, and I think they're a fantastic alternative to guppies, as you were saying, for the exact same reasons. In my mind, there's absolutely nothing wrong with a platy. In fact, I think they're the top of the pile when it comes to a beginner fish. They get to a good size as well, which is quite nice. They're not sort of little midgets in the back, if that makes sense. They become quite bold, and keep them in a group, and they show some really good interactive skills as a unit, as well as towards the owner as well. So I think platies are easily the best beginner fish around, to be fair.
Good to hear. Well, I thought I'd ease us into it, but I do have some on the list that I imagine we'll have fights about, but you know, start it off slow and we'll see how we go. So yeah, do you wanna go next then, Cam, with your number 2 suggestion?
Yeah, so my second one is zebra danios. Again, they're bright, they're colourful, they're active, they're hardy. In fact, they're ridiculously active. I think they fill up the top area really, really well. If you're that way inclined, they're a really good egg scatterer to begin spawning with if you want to go down that route as well. They were a little bit hard to get for a little while, but they seem to have come back. There's some people commercially breeding them now, so I think zebra danios are a really, really good option. The longfin ones in particular are quite nice as well, so there's a couple of variations when it comes to that. So I think, yeah, they're right up there. Really easy to feed. You don't tend to have a lot of issues with them as far as diseases or anything like that. They're pretty hardy. So, yeah, zebra danios get on with pretty much everything. So that's where I'm at for my number 2.
Because we're not allowed to import them anymore, right?
Correct. Yeah. So what's here is here, unfortunately. But like I said, there's some people now producing them on a commercial scale, so they shouldn't disappear anytime soon.
Yeah, that's
another reason to keep them, I guess.
Yeah. I've got a group in with my the plant retail tank. There's just like a bunch of zebra danios, and I think they work really well with plants. Like, as you're saying, like the way they swim, they kind of like darting in between the leaves and stuff. It's quite cool to watch. Because obviously for beginners, a lot of people are going to want to at least give natural plants a go. So those two things work quite well together, I reckon. So yeah, all good. All right. Well,
I agree with that one too. I think it's good, especially if they're not allowed to be imported. We should keep as many fish as we can, as aren't allowed to be imported, as we can, because we lose so much. I don't think we're at risk of losing danios, but you never know what's going to happen.
So I can expect you to start cranking the zebra danios in, Ryan?
What's that?
So I can expect you to start cranking the zebra danios?
No.
I know. I think it's down at Otago University. They're working on studies with zebra danios. So I suspect while they're still working on doing studies, case studies on them, that we're not going to lose them. But it doesn't obviously mean that they're being commercially supplied. But if it got really dire and there was no zebra danio for some reason in New Zealand, they've got some. I'm sure there'd be an opportunity or a way to get hold of some to bring them back from the New Zealand extinction, as it were.
I wonder what they're studying down there. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I've read it. It's nothing to do with the zebra danio. It's just something that they carry a gene or a genetic that they carry that they're trying to work through. I read it about a year or so ago, so I can't quite remember off the top of my head exactly what they're studying on them.
Interesting why red top lycomas came from there too.
Really?
I don't know what they were studying in African cichlids, but they were there at one stage before me bought them from them. So yeah.
Wow.
Damn, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. My next fish is, I've got 2. Which one's going to be more likely to succeed? I don't want to be the first one to get shot down. I'm going to go with bristlenose. The reason I'm going to go with the bristlenose is you can get different colors. You can get like the long fins, the golds, the albinos, all that sort of stuff. And the main reason is that a lot of kids or even adults like trying to find them. So it's quite it's a good way to get people interested in your tank. Like, we put a little tank in my partner's classroom, and the kids love looking for the bristlenose. They'll spend hours trying to find the bristlenose in there, and it's a golden one, so it's easy to find, but sometimes they can't find it, so I'll throw out the humble bristlenose.
what do you guys reckon for tank size for a bristlenose? I know it's a very it's
There's
an
a lot of
area of
stuff thrown
contention I
around.
come across. Yeah.
I've kept them in quite small tanks, like 45, 60 centimeters, and never had any issues. Some of them get giant though, like you've seen those 20 centimeter ones, but most of them don't seem to get that big, you know?
I think the ones that get big are the ones that don't have the opportunity to reproduce early. So I've got a really big female that's been on her own the entire time. So she's never had the chance to spawn, which means she's never had to reproduce eggs. So the energy's, my theory is the energy's gone on to actually growing in size. And she's really big.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that, particularly the females, is a contributor for them to get really, really large. But you're right. Some of them do get quite big, and others stay a relatively moderate size. So it's probably some sort of genetics along the lines as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like people throw out all kinds of numbers, but there is a lot of contention, I guess, especially in like you see in the Facebook groups and stuff. Like people throw out all sorts, like not even that close together. Like anything from like a 2 foot 60 liter tank to like 3 foot like 180 liter tanks. But yeah, I don't know. I'd probably say 2 foot's fine for just the one, but ideally a bit bigger, especially just for the beginners, because like they are poop machines. So you obviously want to limit that for people who are super practiced. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting area, I think.
Yeah.
I once visited a pleco breeder that used to produce like tens of thousands of bristlenoses, and he bred them all in 2-foot tanks. And the bottom of the tank was moving, like you couldn't really see the bottom of the number of bristlenoses. Now, obviously, he knows what he's doing, and he was a very scientific fish keeper too. So he would measure everything every day, and he's probably doing lots of water changes and really keeping on top of stuff, so he could get away with a lot more than the average person. But yeah, they can be kept in smaller tanks. I wouldn't say nano tanks, but smaller tanks.
Small enough for a beginner.
Yeah.
I'm in the realm of sort of 60 centimeter, 2-foot, sort of 60-liter tank for a single species. Always try and encourage people only buy one and not to buy a group. As soon as you start buying 2 or 3, the odds are a male, female. Once that happens, you're overrun with them. But I think a 2-foot, 60 centimeter tank is about a fair size for a single individual bristlenose. Just seems to make sense around that size. You can do a little bit of cave work or a bit of woodwork or whatever, and have them nice and doing what they need to do in that tank as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Bristlenose didn't make my list, but it definitely got an honorary mention. It was definitely in the equation when I was thinking about this. So far, looks like we're all on the same page.
Well, I suppose I'll throw out one that I know for a fact you guys will disagree with, but I think it's a very good idea, and maybe it's a little bit of a loophole fish, but an axolotl, I think, is a good one for a few reasons. Number one,
because they're on Minecraft. Is that what you're going to say?
Yeah, bro. I love Minecraft, but no, because kids absolutely go crazy for them, and I have like many customers who their kids have found them on like TikTok or whatever, and then the kids go absolutely down the rabbit hole and know every single thing you could possibly know about an axolotl, convince their parents to get one, and then that's enough to start the seed of like the hobby, And the good thing with axolotls as well is they're a bit specific in how to care for them, but they are super easy to look after. Like water changes, filter, feed them. That's it. The tank setup's a bit specific, like the dim lights and only having sand or bare bottom or whatever. But once you get that under control, very easy upkeep, and it's one like kids, but the whole family gets involved in. Like they start to, I find people who start with axolotls put more effort into understanding the water chemistry and like proper feeding and like learning why to do water changes and like put more effort or put more time and like love into it than like if you just get a couple, golden barbs or whatever and just chuck them in a little tank. So yeah, I know you guys will disagree, but that was my sort of loophole fish that get a bit of a debate going.
First question is: Are they an actual fish? Are they considered a fish, or are they just considered some kind of creepy, gross looking thing?
I think they are considered a fish, but not in the way that the average Joe would think about a fish. But
my only argument to axolotls would be, I believe or consider them to be one of the more neglected animals in our trade.
100%.
I remember being a younger person and going to a friend's house an axolotl, and they were feeding it like raw beef heart and all that kind of stuff, and bits of chicken and bits of steak and stuff like that. And to me, that's kind of animal abuse, and it's not what they should be eating.
100%.
It's causing them issues. So I do agree that they're relatively hardy, pretty easy, and kids absolutely love them. My child pesters me for one nearly every day. But I think that they're neglected, or they're not cared for correctly in the sense of how they're actually looked after in the long run. And then they kind of like a passing fad, almost like a turtle, how they look really cute when the small people get them home and people forget they're a million years old before they die. Not that axolotls get that old, but you know what I mean when I'm using that as an example.
Yeah, I mean, like an axolotl still live like 20 years, so it is
good
a pretty long time. Not as long as a turtle, but long enough to consider compared to like a, tetra or something little like that.
They're technically a amphibian anyway, so they're not a fish, so they're off.
Didn't think they were a fish. Sucks to be you. Get that off the list.
Nah, I still claim it. At least I didn't. I was going to put snails on the list, but I was like, nah, that might be a bridge too far.
That's definitely gone.
Yeah.
So you're sticking with your axolotl then, regardless of it not being a fish?
Yeah, man, I don't care.
Okay.
What are you going to do?
So at the end of this, do we have to agree on a list, or are we just going to talk about them and throw some ideas out there?
We'll see how we go. Axolotls
we can just see. We can just see where people agree and where they don't, and then wing it.
Yeah.
What else you
go now, Cam?
Me, okay.
Yeah, man.
It's almost like we're going in some sort of order. That's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've got the glow light tetra as my next option.
Oh, that was one of mine.
Yeah, I think they're hardy, which is great, like really hardy. I really like personally how the orange streak on them and the light, their eyes sort of glow a little bit, which I think is a really cool little trait to them. Plant friendly, which a lot of people are really into. Relatively cheap and inexpensive, which is a bonus as well. They're definitely a great addition over things like a neon tetra. And they give you the opportunity to sort of experience a proper schooling fish, keep them in decent sized groups, and they really change their behavior to having them in 2 or 3. They're the kind of fish that you can almost consider as bulletproof as far as tetras go. Decent ability to go in like a bigger tank or a slightly smaller tank. Kind of keep to themselves. There's no real big deal when it comes to other tank mates, as long as they're not big enough to be eaten. And ridiculously cool to watch feeding. So the glow light tetras are definitely up there for me.
I think because I had them on my list, and I agree with everything you just said. The only other thing that I had as well is I think it's really cool how it's so easy to tell males from females. Like the females would be way more rounded, like with the eggs and that. And I find especially like kids and stuff love that, because then when they're naming them, it's much easier to choose the names and like remember which is which, because you can obviously, like a cardinal or a neon or whatever all look the same more or less. So that's the only other thing I'd throw out there as well, is especially for the young ones, naming them makes life a bit easier, which is good.
Yeah, how big do they get? Just neon size, neon and cardinal size, is it?
Yeah, smaller than cardinals, about the same size, a little bigger than neon.
Oh, yeah. I've never kept a glow light tetra, so I have nothing really intelligent to contribute here.
Do you want me to sing?
I've seen them in pet shops, and they look a bit meh to me. They don't look that colourful.
They take a little while to settle in. The orange takes a little while to go proper orange. Like, and when they first come in, they'll be a bit smaller, and it's like orange, but not that bright. It's kind of whatever.
It's like a
but then, like, yeah. But you get them home, and you give them maybe a month or so, and they'll be like bright orange. Like, it actually works real well if you've got a planted tank because it's like that contrast. It's like obviously there's no orange plants or whatever really, so those two colors stand out against each other. So yeah, but no, they're a cool fish. I'll give you some to put in Kim's tank, eh?
yeah. Although I'm quite enjoying the other ones in there at the moment.
Yep.
Are we good to throw out another one, Nelly?
Yeah, far away.
Down.
White cloud mountain minnow.
That's a good one.
Now, where I find they're really good, and I throw them out a lot, is when people have got small tanks and try and stick goldfish in them. And
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah, 100%.
Don't put goldfish in them. Put some Java moss in there, and some white cloud mountain minnows, and they'll probably breed for you. And they're hardy and they're colourful, and I don't know the availability of them because I haven't seen them for a while. But you used to be able to get golds and long fins and all sorts of stuff, and they're quite colourful. And the babies are actually get like a real iridescent sort of stripe through the middle when they're young, which is pretty cool. I used to have a big tank of them right next to my bed when I was a kid, and I used to just have thousands of them in there, and they were all awesome. So I definitely rate them.
Yeah, they're a good choice. Because what I do is I always say, like, whenever someone comes in with like a little tank and they're like, oh yeah, I want to get a couple goldfish, I just point them to the gold white clouds, and I just say, get this. It's exactly the same fish, except it'll stay the size it is now, pretty much. Like, but you're still going to get the same color and like shape and everything. But it's just a much more suitable fish, and like, especially for that kind of situation, people are like, oh yeah, whatever, I don't care. It's like close enough. But then even the normal like bronze white clouds, they still, I think, have really cool color and work really well in a planted tank. Especially with like the little red bits they get on their fins. But yeah, that's a fantastic call. I mean, don't need a heater, feed easily, breed easily. What more could you want?
Yeah, nothing bad to say about white cloud minnows. Yeah, I think you've just might have shot that one to the top of the list with an equal with the Playleaf here. I think didn't cross my mind, but probably agree with you. In particular, the gold ones are right up there for me, and for the same reason as you, Cam. Someone's got a small tank, want a goldfish. Not going to sell you one of them, but let's have a look at these gold minnows. Stay small, nice and active. Keep them in a group. Get more fish than one fish, kind of thing. Yeah.
And I think
100%.
ethically, it's a good choice because we, as an industry, we probably need to discourage people from keeping goldfish as their first fish in a small tank. Because hasn't been the right place for them for a long time. But that stigma and that mentality still seems to have hung around a bit, So
yeah, man, 100%.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they might be extinct in the wild. Is that correct? Or
I do not know.
Very, very low numbers in the wild.
White clouds. Yeah, I think I saw something that white clouds were.
Yeah.
I thought we were talking about goldfish, but
so it's the same sort of thing, as far as ethically trying to keep things alive and that kind of stuff. That's another one up there as well.
Yeah,
for sure. All right. Well,
interesting. They are a member of the carp family. So, when you say they look like goldfish, that could be why.
Oh, so Ryan's going to be Mr. Google for us, I suppose, as we're talking along.
I was trying to see if they're actually extinct in the wild. Quickly.
Are they on the CITES list or anything like that? Did it show anything?
Who needs to do research beforehand, eh?
Yeah. Just carry on. I'll keep throwing stuff in.
Keep digging.
All right. Well, I've got another one that you guys are gonna disagree with, but
here we go.
I'm gonna throw it out there. No, I'm actually, I'm actually going to say goldfish
Oh,
for one very specific reason, because a lot of people don't want to have a tank in their house, but if you talk to them, a pond is definitely on the table, and it's a way for people to get involved with the hobby without having to bring it into their house. Like you can even just get those. I have a few people who get those preformed ponds, like the big I don't know what they are, like fiberglass almost.
Almost like a kid's
Fiberglass
swimming pool
ponds.
type thing, eh? Yeah. Those
Yeah, kind
almost
of.
almost like that, similar to that, eh?
Yeah, similar idea. Or you can get them in like all sorts of shapes with like little rock outcrops and stuff. And then they chuck that in their garden and, set up a filter and everything. And they're more than happy with that. The kids love going and feeding them. They're a bit more forgiving than indoor fish because like nature's obviously more involved. But it's a way where people can kind of dip their toe into the hobby, so to speak, without having to go all out and like get a tank and have it in their living room and like stress if it's starting to look a bit meh. But you can still enjoy feeding them and giving them treats and like looking at them and all that kind of thing. So yeah, but I will also throw out the caveat that in the tank setting, goldfish is no good. Even like fancy goldfish, like if you got a 3 foot tank with a Blackmore or something, I wouldn't recommend that for a beginner because, they're messy, it's hard, they get big, all this kind of thing. No good. I'm talking about specifically in the pond setting. So, yeah.
I don't know if you can have a beginner's fish that's supposed to be easy and not set them up and then have all these caveats. It'll be like saying, Arawan is a great first fish, but you've got to have a 10-foot tank.
Well, no,
Yeah,
that's that's ridiculous.
yeah.
It's for it's saying a pond is a good first setup, basically.
Are we saying the
Is
top 5 beginner pond fish, or are we saying the top 5
I,
beginner
I
fish?
yeah.
fish
I'm
in
on
general.
I don't know. Do people begin with ponds, or is that how
I have
how
plenty of
allowed
people that do.
going on here?
I have plenty of people that do. Like, there's people who buy houses that already have ponds and like they have no interest in a tank, but they get invested in their pond, or like, I don't want anything in my house, but we'll get the kids a little preformed pond or medium-sized preformed pond outside or whatever. I have quite a few people like that.
I think you're making things up because I've never had that before.
Well,
My
it's because you live in Nelson.
Did buy a house that had a pond, and he has inherited a pond, and he's done everything that he can to look after said pond. So I'll give you that. People buy them with them. But saying that, I've had plenty of people give me a ring, say, "Look, I've bought a house that's got a pond. I don't want the fish. I'm going to dig it in. If you want the fish." So yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can agree with that one.
It's interesting. I think if someone came up to you and said, "What's 5 top beginner fish?" and you said a goldfish, they're going to stick it in a bowl.
Yeah.
Because that's where fish go, in a goldfish bowl.
Yeah.
Well, that's when I would direct them towards white clouds, of course. You didn't listen to the previous part of the podcast, mister.
No,
contentious, I think, that one.
Yeah.
Hey, man, that's what I'm here for.
I'm not letting that one pass the goalie. That's a no-go.
Fair enough. All right, what do you got then?
I've got honey gouramis.
That's a good one.
Honey gouramis in particular, they are hardy. The males get the most phenomenal colour. Keep them by themselves, get a single male, you can name it, get the interaction out of the male if you choose to do. Easy to look after, lots of options for potential tank mates. If you want a nice and slow and steady tank, they work really well for that. Feeding them, there's no issues whatsoever at all. As far as bubble nest breeders go, they're also a relatively good starter if you want to play around with spawning them as well. Bang for buck, they're pretty good fish. Don't have a lot of genetic issues, and they're a fairly good price for the type of fish that you get as well. So I think honey gouramis are right up there.
The other good thing about them is they're labyrinth fish, which basically means that they can breathe atmospheric oxygen with this organ called a labyrinth. So they can be, obviously you want to make sure you have good water quality, but as a beginner, if you're making mistakes or whatever, they can be a bit more forgiving than stuff that doesn't have that ability. So yeah, that I did have, well, I was going to put that on my list, but I had a suspicion that you'd be putting it on yours. So I didn't include it, but I think it's a good choice. Like, you've got the color, and it's a good little centerpiece fish. So yeah, I'd 100% agree with that one.
It's in a small tank as well, which, like, again, we're basing on beginners. In my mind, a 2-foot tank is a lot of sort of beginner people start, 60 litres and that kind of mark.
Yep.
Which I think honey gouramis fit into quite nicely as well.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah,
I'd agree
cool
with
fish.
that.
I agree with them. Yep. I've also seen it, like you say, a lot of people seem to breed them as well, which is cool. So you often see homebred ones popping around and nice ones online. A lot better than the neon blue gouramis and stuff like that. Seem to be prone to all.
Yeah.
Well, they can be quite aggressive, the males, but also they're prone to all sorts of nasty bugs, and they just, you see so many showing up online with spots and wounds and funny stuff going on that I think they're just a weak fish.
I reluctantly carry those fish, and time anyone looks at them, I say, look, the blue neons are prone to all these options, all these possibility things. So if you're prepared to have potential to put these primary put into them, that's cool. Otherwise, honey gouramis are up there, and they're just as amazing. So.
Yeah. I do get. I quite often get people dealing with the the iridovirus problems, and it's pretty much just like, there's not much you can do really. It sucks, but
that's
pretty much put it down kind of thing.
Yeah, as long as us as retailers or other retailers are very transparent with that, at least people know what they're potentially getting into as well.
100%, yeah.
I also like honey gouramis because they come in multiple of colours. Obviously, your standards, you have gold and the red ones as well. I don't think the gold and the red are quite as nice as the standard honey, personally. But they're pretty much the same fish with the same paint job, so they're just as hardy and just as easy going, which is nice.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. All right, you're up, Ryan.
I'm up. I was going to throw the better out there. I didn't think they were very cool until we kind of had one, and they had a bit of size and a bit of different colour and a bit of something different to a tank. Obviously, you've got to be careful what you keep them with. So there is that consideration as well. So it's probably not the ideal beginner fish, but I still think they're pretty cool. And a lot of people start with them from there. I know that I've seen people, probably not the best thing to do, but use them as centerpieces for weddings and then send them home with all the kids and stuff, and get people into it that way. But yeah, I think they're cool.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. They're the other good thing about them is they're one that everyone knows. Like even non-fish people know a fighting fish or like know of them. So it's a less scary way for people to kind of dip their toe in without having to sort of go down the rabbit hole of learning about all these different types of fish. But yeah, I mean, I'd say that'd be a good choice. Again, like pretty much any color you can think of, all different fin varieties, all this kind of good stuff. So yeah,
I'm going to disagree with you on that one. I agree the amount of color variations, fin variations is a positive thing. I put them in the same sort of category as some of the more neglected fish in the industry. I think they're kept in too small of a tank, particularly by beginners. And small tanks can then incur water condition issues really easily. As a beginner fish, I don't agree. I think they're better options than them. They can also be prone to things like fin rot and that kind of stuff fairly easy when they're not looked after properly. I think they're not fed correctly by beginners as well. They can have internal issues when they're fed too much or fed the wrong food, which beginner people are often more prone to throwing more food in. So I think that's another down on them. I agree with you in the sense like keeping them as an individual, they become a pet and interactive with the owner and can really get people flourishing in the hobby for that sort of side of it, which I think is really good. But overall, I don't think they are a good beginner fish. They're also very short-lived as well. 2 years for a fish, we get them 9 months to a year old. They're already beginning potentially to be having issues with them. So yeah, I don't think that they are a good beginner fish.
Yeah, that is interesting because there's, I think they fall into that category of just like there is a lot of bad quality stuff around.
Yeah.
For them, particularly from the imported ones. The good thing with the betas is there's a lot of very good breeders around. They're one that everyone and their dog is breeding, but finding those ones can be a bit difficult. And obviously, if they've got quality issues to begin with, then it's going to be less forgiving of mistakes that can be made, particularly when it's like your first fish or like your first tank or whatever, stuff like that. So yeah, I think it's definitely something to be mindful of, but I would still say they would be a good beginner fish. Maybe not like the super big, like the super deltas or something like that. They can be the massive fins that can be a bit more fin rot prone and this kind of thing. But like, just like the normal kind of common long fins or whatever, I think they can be a good choice. So yeah, you're wrong, Cam.
I can concede that keeping them in like a community tank, again, basing like a 2 foot 60 litre tank, could be a good option. But I think when people keep them individually in like the 10 litre or the 11 litre tank sort of thing, or the really small square Aqua One tanks that are hideous, I think that's when that's when I think they're not a good beginner fish, and they shouldn't be on the table for that sort of scenario. So,
man, I hate those tanks so much.
We're probably on board that they're not a good beginner tank anyway for anything, really, apart from
I don't
snails.
think whatever you do with them, you're going to have success. So maybe that's more the issue.
We don't. I mean, they're probably for shrimp, really. I mean, and we don't get them in New Zealand, so like.
I know a couple of people who put like fry in them, but I mean, that's a very specific purpose that's not going to be suitable for any beginner, really.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I always say, like, whenever someone comes and asks, I always say bare minimum is like the Blue Planet 30 litre tanks.
Yeah.
Which is like, I think 45 centimeters long off the top of my head. It's like big enough where it's like a little bit easier to dilute any sort of problems that you might, encounter. Big enough where you can you're not limited to like, okay, you can choose between these two fish. Like you got a little bit more room to like do some marginally bigger stuff, like your white clouds or whatever. Do a couple, like chuck a betta with a couple other things, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I try and encourage minimum of 20 litres for a single betta, or maybe a single betta and a couple of autos or something like that.
100%. That's what I say as well.
Yeah. And I try and emphasise the fact that if you're going this small, you're limiting to what you can have. And if you really want to be limited, then you're fine. If you don't want to be limited, maybe push up towards a 50 or a 60 litre tank where you can open up.
I think the limited side's bit, it's easier for, someone who's maybe a bit more deep in the hobby, because you know what you want to get. Like you live and breathe fish. It's like, oh yeah, I really want to get this specific thing, and I just have one of them in like one snail and I'll be happy. That's fine. But if it's like you don't really know, you don't want to get to that stage where it's like, oh, okay, I've bought my one fish and like a couple glow lights or whatever, or a few glow lights or whatever, and now I can't have anything else. But then I discover this other fish that I really want to get, but tank's too small, not enough room. Oh, this hobby sucks, basically. Which of course we want to discourage and enable people to have their success. So yeah,
we should be enabling them to have mini tanks, though. So the answer is they just need to buy a bigger tank.
Yeah,
exactly. But you got to build them up slowly, otherwise it's too scary for people.
I mean, that's the answer when you can't fit a fish. You just buy another tank for it.
Another tank.
We know that.
Yeah.
That's how we all ended up in the situations we're in currently. It's a slippery slope.
This can't live with this, so I have to get a new tank for this, and then this one can't live with this one, so look at it, now I've got 1 million tanks.
No, I have too many tanks for my house. I need to build a fish room.
Exactly.
All right. So that was one better, which is wrong.
Yep. So jury's out. So it's my turn now.
Because it's going to be 2v1. So
all right.
Anyway.
It's a democracy, I guess. So it's my turn now. I'm gonna say one again that I don't know if either of you will agree with, but you know, I guess I'm gonna be the unpopular opinions guy. I think electric yellows or yellow labs is a good option because oftentimes you get someone who has a little bit bigger of a tank, maybe like a 3-foot tank, and they're wanting something a bit bigger, a bit more colorful, a bit more active. And of the African cichlids, I think that'd be the easiest for a beginner. They're much more peaceful than like a lot of other options, a lot smaller, breed relatively easily. So yeah, I'd say that would be, of that category, I'd say that would be your best bet. Just like some of those and like nothing else, or like, you know, maybe some Dems if you're feeling frisky. But yeah, I'd say that would be it's an option for the people who want to go a little bit bigger and like maybe spend a bit more money on a you know, bigger setup with like some more fancier bits and pieces and that kind of thing. So yeah.
I was going to put them on there too, but I just think there's too many provisos with it. I just think there's too many. There's too many for it to be successful. I mean, yes, I agree with you. If someone comes in with a 3 or 4 foot tank, there's no, in my mind, there's no other better fish in the world, you know, because an African cichlid, you just put yellows in it, put all sorts of cool stuff in it. But I don't know, I just don't see that many beginners. Even people that come out to buy African cichlids off me often show up with a giant tank and it's a 2 foot, you know, and I'm just like, well, you know, Kirsty came at the pet shop and buy something else, you know. Yeah, I'm loath to disagree with an African cichlid, but I struggle with that one because I just think like goldfish, there's too many other things that have got to be, you know. Yeah,
I think for you, I think it's a bit different because since I've had the shop, what I've noticed is like there's a lot more very casual people who'd like never even consider that you could go online and find someone selling fish out of their backyard. But
yeah, you're right. Yeah,
have you know, get one of them Blue Planet what's it called, the Essentials, Blue Planet Essentials 3-foot tank, and you know, because they're like, oh, I want something really cool in my living room, but you know, they're not going to buy a massive, you know, peacock and hat tank or whatever. But
those tanks are cheap.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like ridiculously cheap for what they are.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
and there's enough people who fit into that category, want something cool, but not, you know, they want to spend, you know, maybe $1,000 setting it up, but they don't want to spend $4,000 setting it up, and come into my shop and see my peacocks and haps and like, oh, I want that, and I'm like, yeah, that's going to be too big, but look at these, they're like pretty much the same thing to a beginner looking at it, but much less, you know, crazy aggro wise, and will be much more manageable for these people. And you know, I've had plenty of people come in who've like had them, and then they get like, I don't know, a bristle nose and like some cool rocks or whatever, and then that's them off to the races because it's much more approachable for those people who want to maybe go a little bit bigger and a little bit more, spend a little bit more money to do something that's more of a like centerpiece for their living room rather than just like a little tank for the kids type of situation. So yeah,
I'm going to disagree with you on it.
Of course.
I agree with you that they are a fantastic beginner African cichlid. For all the points that you pointed out, I 100% concede and agree. Easy, hardy, not that aggressive, all that kind of stuff. But I don't think that they are a good beginner fish. I'm envisioning someone that's just really fresh to the hobby, and I don't think the African cichlids are a good fresh to the hobby. They're the next kind of step through. You've had a wee play around with communities and you might want to get into something slightly different. I also personally don't think that 3 foot's big enough for yellows. I think they're better off in a 4 foot. And I know Ryan's probably going to disagree with me, and you're probably going to disagree with me, but that's my own personal belief on electric yellows. They need to be a little bit bigger than that.
I think everything's better off in a bigger tank, of
totally
course.
Agree.
But I think yellows will be like yellows are. I think they're fine in like one of those Blue Planet ones. Like obviously you don't want too many, and like you want the tank set up right and everything. But I think some like a little group of electric yellows with, you know, a bristle nose and like, oh, probably that's about it. Is fine. But yeah,
I think you can definitely start off in you can definitely start off in a tank that small with them. And I breed in a lot of smaller tanks, but I know what I'm doing. And ratio is important. Ratio is important, and
100%.
Everything else is important, especially with African cichlids. That's why I think, yes, Cam, if someone comes in and sees you, or probably any of us, then the Leeches and Electric Yellow could be a good option. If they go into Animates or another store, maybe not, because they might get sold one, and they might not get the right advice, or they might not get the right stocking.
That's
so, you know,
not something I'd considered.
That's my next point. Animates or wherever sell them, and Joe Blow's got a few guppies and Corridor or whatever in their 2.5, 3 foot tank. I like these, and the right questions aren't being asked, and all of a sudden they've got an electric yellow with their guppies, and all of a sudden they've got no guppies. And we all know that happens.
They'll have a really happy electric yellow though. So I mean, you know, it's always a balancing act. They're looking after the needs of the yellow.
Yeah,
I'm annoyed I didn't consider that
because I don't think
it's a question. But I 100% agree.
My other thought on that is also we'll base on a 3 foot tank. How many yellows do you think you can put in a 3 foot tank comfortably for the average beginner?
We're all going to disagree.
I know, but what are we thinking here? 3, 4, 5, 6, 12, 30?
I'd start with.
I'd say like
10, 8 to 10 probably be what I'd start with,
10?
And then be saying you're going to remove a couple of males.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say you'd want to end up with like 6 to 8, like one male or no males.
Okay, so we'll 6 to 8. We'll go right in the middle of 7. As a beginner with a beginner fish tank with a 3 foot tank, do you think 7 electric yellows is going to wow the new fish keeper?
I do, yes.
You do?
I do. I very much do.
I disagree, and I believe that new fish keepers like having lots of fish, lots of different sorts of fish, lots of interaction, lots of colour, lots of activity, which you get from the yellows, but varying bits which you don't get. To me, 7 yellows in a 3 foot tank for a beginner is a little bit bland. I know electric yellows are bright and colourful and they're cool fish, ridiculously hardy, but I think that becomes a little bit of a bland beginning tank.
I understand what you're saying, but I do disagree. And the other thing I just remembered, I'm annoyed I didn't think this through hard enough. I think I got a bit excited. But the classic pet shop yellows suck. And so that's not going to be any fun. Like the kind of browny grey ones, that's not going to be any fun. I'm talking about like yellow, electric yellows is probably more what I'm talking about, because then you get that bright colour where you wouldn't get them from the normal pet shop ones. But I think a group of yellows would wow people because it's something general, you know, average public person isn't going to even consider you can keep fish like that. So like, you know, they're having someone over, they walk into their living room and wow, there's these like big bodied, bright yellow, black striped fish. Like, what is that? Tell me about it, all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I think in that sense, and they're like, you can kind of figure out personalities and everything. So even if you've got like kids or like, you know, the neighbors' kids or whatever, there are fish where you can name them and like learn them easily enough compared to like, you know, even something like a platy, not going to be as easy. Like, oh yeah, that's not, you know, you can't name them as easily. in a way that's kind of going to be meaningful for the average person. So yeah.
I guess you've also just pointed out a point that I believe makes them not suitable for a beginner, is that you've got to get quality ones. So again, if someone comes to us three, they can get good quality ones. But if they go to another store, like you go to the stores around the place and you see these horrible crossbred ones or ones with sunken in bellies and horrible stuff. So again, it's really situational dependent, isn't it? I'd love to sell everyone yellows, but and again, I don't see, you guys see a lot more different. We all see different people. I don't see a lot of people anymore because I don't bother really selling that much. I sell to you guys, so you guys see a lot more of the public, so you do know more about what's happening. And I guess your name's Cooler Cam on here, so we'll call Cooler Cam up in Auckland here. Is specialising more in African cichlids, so he probably does have a lot more people that are keen to come in. And so I guess it's how we define a beginner. How do we define a beginner? Like, someone that can walk into any store and buy any fish, or someone that can walk into Cooler Cam Auckland store and buy a fish?
Yeah, I also personally, I genuinely believe that people that are beginning they've got the bug, they want to buy new fish, they want to see new fish in their tank on a regular basis, and you can't do that so much with electric yellows. Again, we're basing beginner numbers, 3 foot, maybe 4 foot tank, not a 5 foot monster where you can continue to add more fish to it. And I think that takes him off that list of being suitable for a beginner tank.
Fair enough. I still stand behind it, and I still think it is a good option. But
in your store, it probably is. And if people come to you, it probably is, definitely. If they like them, there's no reason why they can't be successful if they're properly set up. And if they've got the right scaffolding around that in terms of support and stocking and the right size tank and the right food and all that stuff to start with, then they're going to be fine. Because they are hardy fish, they're cool fish,
But that's all those caveats that if they're putting all these extra things into it, are they really a beginner fish? Are they really a good option for this list? I don't disagree that they're cool, they're bright, they're colourful, they're really good as far as African cichlids go. Like I can agree on everything you've said, but you're wrong.
Fair enough. Well, let's see what your next suggestion is then, huh?
Coming up firing now, are you? So this was on my honourable mentions list, but I've decided to promote them up into the top 5, and I'm going to go with keyhole cichlids.
You can't trash yellows and then say that.
Why not?
Because that's a terrible option.
Why?
Not.
Can I at least tell you why I think they're a good option?
Well, I'll let you say why you think they are first, and then I'll trash you.
Okay. They're hardy. They are not aggressive. Even when you're spawning, they're not aggressive. They don't get too big. You can keep a single one as an individual show fish quite easily into your community tank. I think they are very underutilized for what they are. They keep to themselves. They've got some nice color traits to them. They're really undemanding as well. Like I just think in general, if you're wanting to go into the dwarf cichlid range or into the cichlid world, I think they're a really good start. They're not aggressive like African cichlids are because they're psycho. So I think they're a good option when you're wanting to start into that world. They're not as disease prone or as hard to keep as things like German rams, which can be really finicky. They've got lots of spectrum when it comes to water conditions and feeding conditions. So I think they're a really good option when getting into or wanting to get into slightly bigger cichlids or dwarf cichlid realm. And they can go in blackwater tanks, which are awesome.
I think
which beginners hate.
They probably get a little bit bigger than what they're also kind of a boring little brown fish. As a beginner, I did go through a stage of wanting to keep them, and I did actually keep them for a while in one of my tanks. But I guess they're a cichlid, so that's cool. But I don't know, they don't do a lot. They do a lot more else for me, really.
I think if you're gonna be looking at them, I think probably a Bolivian ram is going to be a better beginner option.
That's what they knocked off on my list.
I think a Bolivian ram is it's basically a keyhole, except better colors, more interesting behavior, in my opinion.
But a little bit uglier.
I disagree. I think they're a bit cooler. But yeah, the keyholes, I don't know if I can get behind that. They're just kind of like not really any interesting color or pattern or anything. And like, I'm sure their behavior is cool, but I think there's better options to observe that behavior or interesting behavior in general. So yeah.
They as they mature, they do take some time to mature, unfortunately. But as they mature, they do get some really nice yellow and sort of green colorations to them. And obviously they're called a keyhole because of the markings on them. Yeah, I think they are a good option. And the main point for me is how unaggressive they are. Like they are really, really, really unaggressive. A friend of mine kept them with his guppies just to try and keep the population of guppies down, and they'd only get the fry. They wouldn't touch. No interest in the adults. It was just picking off the fry. And so I think for that reason alone, that they are just so placid, makes them a really good option when it comes to if you want to have a cichlid into your community tank.
Yeah, that's fair. I just think it misses out some of the best parts of cichlids, which is that color. And like I've never kept them really, aside from like in the shop. So it's not something I've ever had appeal to me. But
yeah,
I just think the color and like just like appearance wise, I think it leaves a bit wanting for Joe Blow hobbyists.
Again, I think they're another one like a rainbow fish that in a shop they look quite bland. When they get home, once they develop, like I said, they do take a while to develop, but once they're developed, they become a very, very nice fish.
A nice goldy brown
maybe it's something
fish.
I'll have to look at.
It's interesting how once you start, it also depends what you've kept and what you like as well, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, 100%.
We're all kind of a little bit biased, I've got 60 tanks of African cichlids, so but I have kept and bred a lot over the years.
But you did concede that electric yellows aren't a good.
They were on there, but they were on there for me. But then I thought, well, look, there's just too much. There's too many variables there. Yes, if they come see me or Cam or anyone that's responsible and doing the right thing and knows what they're doing, they're going to be successful. But if they just wander into a random any Joe Blogs sort of retail chain store, they're probably just going to get sold them and set up.
I do concede that. That's a fair point.
And that's where keyholes are really good because they've got such a big spectrum of availability ways to keep them.
Yeah, and you can just have a brown fish in your tank. That'd be great.
Yeah, man. What more could you want?
Brown's a color as well, man.
Yeah.
Don't hate on brown fish.
All right, what you got, Ryan? What's your lucky?
I'm going to throw one out there that's
was it not last, but
interesting.
Brevis. I'm going to throw out Brevis, little shell dwelling Brevis.
That's one I had on. I was thinking about.
They're not. Then you could probably argue that they're a boring little brown fish. Cam probably will.
They are a little brown fish.
But they've also got a lot of really interesting behaviors and a lot of really cool interactions. And if you wanted to have a little 25-litre tank on your desk or somewhere on your bench or something, that'd be awesome. Not as colourful or showy as other things, but really interesting. Like if someone really wants something they can look at and enjoy and watch interacting with each other and sort of get involved in, that's where you go. Not as bright as some of the other stuff, but still really awesome fish, and you plant out.
I think it's something different, like something that people wouldn't have seen before, but still very beginner friendly, I'd say. And I mean, so like on the color thing, they do get that kind of bluey,
blue in them.
iridescent eye,
purple.
which is quite cool. And then the other thing with them is like, I don't know if this is going to be a controversial take, but you can keep other stuff with them, like your Danios or like your what are they called? the lamprey killifish is a popular one, or platies or whatever, we'll be fine with them. So yeah, I would agree with that. I would have put them on my list, but I didn't. But
Well,
I think
I
it's a
didn't
good
put an
call.
African cichlid on there because I didn't feel like I could put
Exactly.
yellows on there, so I had to put one on there. You know,
I'm sure
probably a bit
Cam is going to tell us about
underrated.
why we're
Underrated,
wrong.
you know?
I'd agree there, underrated.
I'm going to sit on the fence on this, and I'm going to let you see if you can sway me which way you want to. They are cool fish. They do in a smaller size tank. They are hardy, like everything you said, 100% correct. My question is availability. So, how easy is it for a beginner to get hold of these fish?
They come see me and Ryan. It's easy
You
as.
just need to tell me because I can. Yeah,
We've
the
got
availability of them won't be an issue. But the demand's not there at the moment. The demand's not there at the moment, so we're spreading the word about brevis, and we'll push the demand up a little bit, and people will actually enjoy them and keep them.
So
The other thing I will say, which no, you go, Cam.
Yeah, you're not pushing again. Beginner, I think, needs to be available. Now, if these were relatively available in lots of different shops or lots of different people's hands, I think I could absolutely agree with you. I think they're in there. But for a beginner that's just decided to buy a fish tank from, we're going to use animates because that seems to be the theme throughout this conversation, where are they going to find brevis if they don't know?
I think the thing is, brevis could be very easily available, but no one wants them to be.
But aren't.
But could very easily be. Same could be said about plenty of little community fish that currently aren't really around.
The ones we're trying to get hold of, but we can't. But anyway.
Well, that is an option, but there's plenty of other ones.
Yeah, I'm
it's interesting. If we're gonna call a beginner as walking into an Animates or other chain store, then the brevis can't be on there because, like you say, they can't get them.
Yeah.
But I am saying if they could get them, there's probably not a lot you can go wrong with them. You know, they are really hardy. They are really cool.
If the criteria is what is available at Animate, to be fair, we're going to have about
6 fish.
10 or 15 fish to choose from max. So,
well, electric yellows
I'm not.
You could be it.
Yeah, well, that's a whole different conversation.
We're using Animate as an example just because we're nationwide, but I'm sure we're kind of understanding where that conversation is.
And there could be somewhere the beginner goes to buy their fish in their first tank because they know it and they're walking past it with their dog or their cat or whatever.
Yeah, we've all got pet shops in whatever region we're in New Zealand or around the world. But pet shops is probably a better way of putting it. They're just not readily available there, or they can't be ordered in by them and that sort of stuff. And that's probably my only thing when it comes to beginner fish for the brevis.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, but I guess I'll just have to crank them and get everyone having some.
I don't know if that doesn't make them a good beginner fish, though.
Yeah, I'd side with Ryan there.
As a beginner, how are you going to get hold of them?
Come see me.
But if you could,
come see you.
If you could,
Jimmy from Gore doesn't know you exist. So how can Jimmy from Gore walk into a shop and find them? Or
but lives in Gore, so you know.
I think there's still plenty of people that could get some.
Yeah, but beginner. You're a beginner.
Plenty of
I see your idea. Yep. Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but I think there is enough around, relatively easily available. Because I'm sure if plenty of people, if they go to their local fish store,
they'll be there.
Yeah, if they go to their local fish store, plenty of fish store owners will know Ryan is the guy to contact if you're after brevis. So that option is on the table, like it might not be a one you walk in and grab off the shelf, but it wouldn't be too hard for people to get them.
There's
fish store owners to get them.
As a beginner, where do they find the brevis? Oh, I wouldn't mind keeping this as my first fish or my second fish sort of thing.
They look up podcasts about what's a good beginner fish.
I think we can see where everyone stands on this one anyway. We've got to move on, otherwise we won't get to 5 each. We're already over an hour. Is anyone still going to be listening at this point? Or are we talking to ourselves?
If you're still listening, comment the word hot dog and we'll see. All right. So my last one is going to be Corydoras Aeneas, but specifically the albino Cory.
Yeah, they were on my list.
Because specifically the albino, because it's something that looks very weird and very different, but it's still very easy to keep. Pretty much the most bulletproof Cory there would be. Adds activity to like a different layer of the tank. So like, you got your platies or whatever in the middle, but you can get your Corys going along the bottom. Easy, active, look weird, all that kind of stuff. That's going to be my option.
I agree. I was going to put Corys on there, but I was going to just put Corys as general because like you can get the little panda Corys for a smaller tank. You can get the bronze ones. You can get the albino ones. You can get, even for people who get a bit fancy, you can get all the fancy ones, and you can get really confused about whether it's a false Julie or a real Julie, or look at the different lines and patterns and stuff and try and get right into it. But I think as a beginner, like there's not a lot that can go wrong with them. They are pretty tough. They're pretty resilient and they're cool. Yeah. And they also clean up uneaten food, which can be a bit of a curse for beginners to overfeed. To have a little scavenger fish in there can actually save you a little bit,
Yeah,
I had on my, possibly list was bronze Cory with a slash with albino as well. I totally agree. As far as albino fish go, they're really hardy as well, which is not a normal trait for a white albino fish. They're normally a bit prone to disease and issues, but they aren't.
Yeah, exactly.
And because they're white, they seem to really stand out as well. Like, I totally agree. I think they're a better option than bronze. I think they're far cooler, and I'm not a massive albino fan.
I'd agree.
So
I'd agree. I think they're better than bronze and like the orange and that, because it's just something so weird and so different that, your average person is just going to be like, what in the heck is that thing?
Yeah. And they're nice and cheap as well.
Exactly.
The only thing that I would say, and this probably goes with any sort of schooling fish, is people beginning in fish want to only keep one or two and consider that a group, as opposed to keeping them in bigger numbers where they really flourish. That'd be my only thing with them.
The good thing about them though is you could have like 2 albinos, 2 bronzes, and 2 oranges, and because they're all Corydoras Aeneas, they're still gonna school together and everything. But you can have like 3 different, like visually 3 different types of Corys, but not have to sacrifice the happiness of the fish.
I agree.
So
Also, a lot of people beginning only want to buy 2 or 3 or something at a time, but grab a couple this week, and then maybe a couple weeks time come back and grab a few more, and you can kind of develop them that way as well. That would be my only wee downside to any sort of schooling fish or grouping fish that need a group, is that beginners tend to only like to have a couple of these and a couple of these and a couple of these. But as a whole, I totally agree. Albino Corys are great little cat fish.
Also on that is we've got to encourage people to just buy a couple at a time too, so they don't just buy like 20 fish, bung them all in, and crash their tank. So exactly. There's a good consideration. We just got to keep things.
Catch 23 on that for sure. Yeah.
There's things we can get away with experience, but for a beginner, we've got to be real careful that they do things slowly and carefully and understand what's going on in their tank, and don't
100%
end up with a disaster.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Yeah. What's your next suggestion, Cam?
I've done 5, mate.
You've done 5. Did I do 5? Or have I done 6?
You might have done 6.
Classic. Because I didn't even separate out the reserves, so I probably done one of my reserves, but that's all right. Did you have any others you wanted to add, Ryan?
No, that's me pretty much. I just wanted to poke holes at your guys' ideas and agree with you or disagree with you.
Fair enough. Well, I think we do have, I think you could go through all the things we've talked about and pick, maybe you can have your 2-foot tank. You can pick out like your albino Corys, your glowlight tetras, and your platies. And I think you can build a pretty good beginner, like a very easy beginner tank that I think people will have success with, but also will enjoy all the different colors and different, activities and all this kind of thing, which will get people started in the hobby, which is, I think, the main thing about the beginner tank is like kind of planting that seed in people's head where it's more than just like something that sits on the kids' bedside table that you forget about in 2 days. It's something a bit more that you're a bit more emotionally or emotionally invested in, which is how people start the love for the hobby and then get their fish rooms going or get their big display tanks going, which at the end of the day is what I think we all want. So yeah, I think we've covered a lot of bases.
Success is the key, right? We want people to be set up for
100%.
success, not failure, because keeping fish is easy and it can be done easily and cheaply, and that's what we're going to be going through. Probably have some other subjects on this as well. Yeah, it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to take a lot of time or money
And
to be successful with fish,
I think people, I think that's a problem. Probably it's a bit of a topic for another day, but I think a problem in our industry is people trying to overcomplicate things to make it more expensive to get more money out of them. With your things like, I know Cam doesn't agree, but like things with your bottle bacterias, for example, or like, your water clarifiers or like the algae fixes, all this kind of thing. It's just like more money that overcomplicates it and people fail. And then we wonder why they leave the hobby. So,
but that definitely is a discussion for another time.
Exactly. I think if you're starting off with the fish we've talked about, you'll be off to a good start at least. Which is all you can ask for. Disagree, but sure. All right. So yeah, I think that's it for today. But if you enjoyed, make sure to let us know what you think, or if we've missed something hilariously obvious, let us know. And yeah, we'll catch you again next time. All right. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. We'll see you later.
Right.